Number 10. RAMBO. 48-year-old Joseph Manuel Hunter supervised a makeshift group of international mercenaries and assassins. He was arrested in Thailand in 2013 and was sentenced to 20 years in prison for planning to kill a DEA agent. Joseph served in the United States Army as a highly experienced sniper from 1983 to 2004. He spent time teaching others how to operate as snipers and even served as a drill sergeant for a short period as well. By the time he left Army service, Joseph was a highly decorated veteran. His defense attorney, Marlon Curtin, stated that his client's criminal actions were motivated by his mental illness and PTSD, which stemmed from the time he served in Iraq. The former soldier was taken into custody in September of 2013 after a successful sting operation that took place the year prior, where Hunter's boss, Paul LaRue, was arrested. Paul agreed to work with the authorities to pursue other contract killers like Joseph. In exchange for $800,000, Hunter and his team of mercenaries agreed to kill a DEA agent and informant. They set up their temporary base of operations in Thailand, where the arrest would eventually take place. It is also believed that this small criminal group helped carry out a drug deal, which involved 661 pounds of cocaine. There's definitely more that we don't know about, but luckily, Joseph and his group won't be able to do much harm from behind bars. Number 9. COLLIN Reeves. On November 21, 2021, 35-year-old former Army Commando COLLIN Reeves murdered 2 people in Somerset, England. The victims' names were Stephen and Jennifer Chappell. The killer knew the Chappells because they lived next door to each other in a recently built housing development. Apparently, there were multiple anger-fueled exchanges between Reeves and the Chappells over parking issues, including one where he called Jennifer a fat bitch, as well as other horrifying insults. Reeves entered the home of his victims while their children slept, then stabbed them each 6 times. The murder weapon he used was a ceremonial dagger that was gifted to him after his service in the army concluded. The veteran who fought in Afghanistan admitted in court that he stabbed the couple. By pleading guilty, he's eligible for a lesser charge. As to why he killed the 2, Reeves and his wife had recently been having issues with their relationship. Only 40 minutes before the murder, his partner, Kaylee, formally asked to separate from COLLIN. A psychiatrist named Dr. Lucy Bacon also did a mental assessment on Reeves and found that he had moderate depression with no significant symptoms of PTSD. The doctor went on to say that while she believes Collin's depression may have played a role in his actions, it wouldn't have been the sole cause. For his terrible crimes, COLLIN Reeves was sentenced to life in prison. He has a minimum term of 38 years, but it's more than likely that he'll never know freedom again. Number 8. Mercenaries. In October 2021, Aaron Adolf G. and Achim A. were taken into custody in the southern region of Germany. The 2 former soldiers were accused of leading a terrorist group. Their goal was to somehow intervene with the Yemen military conflict by working as a mercenary group. They wanted to try and recruit around 150 men with past experience working as soldiers or police officers in order to benefit their cause. Despite these lofty goals, it's believed only 7 or so people thought about joining the group. To earn money, Aaron and Achim figured they could charge outside parties hefty sums for mercenary services. Achim tried many times to contact the Saudi Arabian government to offer their help dealing with the Houthi rebels in Yemen. However, the country never formally responded. Prosecutors say the 2 ex-soldiers were well aware of what crimes would be involved with this kind of work. They would almost certainly have to kill people if they ever actually were hired. As a result, Aaron was ordered to serve an 18-month prison sentence, while Achim was given 14 months. Number 7. Smugglers. Former American soldiers, 22-year-old Emmanuel Opongagiare and 19-year-old Ralph Gregory St. Joey, were arrested in Hebronville, Texas for crimes related to smuggling in the summer of 2021. The 2 young men were hired to transport a group of Mexican immigrants 240 miles from McAllen to San Antonio, Texas. They were only giving a ride to 2 people in this case, and they were both handed $100 in order to pay for gas. Apparently, the 2 didn't even know how much money they'd be paid after finishing the job, yet they risked everything to do it. The man who hired Emmanuel and Ralph was named Isaiah Gore. He specifically told the soldiers to wear their uniform while smuggling the Mexican nationals to avoid looking suspicious. Despite following this advice, the men were stopped in Hebronville at a border control point. While searching their vehicle, authorities found the 2 illegal immigrants in the soldiers' trunk. For their crimes, Emmanuel was sentenced to serve 21 months in prison, while Ralph was given 13. As has been the case in the past, they will likely be discharged from their official army positions. Number 6. Tyler Griffiths. In England, during the spring of 2019, a woman was working in a Halifax mini market alone when suddenly, a young man holding a kitchen knife walked in. He was wearing a balaclava to cover his face, and he tried to break open the cash register by himself. When he wasn't able to, he held the knife towards the worker, telling her to open it for him. Before leaving with hundreds in cash, he turned to the woman and said, "Don't call the police or I will kill you." The entire interaction was caught by security CCTV cameras. The robber would have gotten away with it if only he'd been wearing gloves when he committed the crime. Police were able to identify the 22-year-old former soldier Tyler Griffiths based on some distinguishing tattoos that were seen on his hands. While taking the stolen money, the tattoos were clearly visible. Tyler also carried out another robbery a week before and allegedly pushed a 75-year-old shopkeeper after stealing money. It's believed he needed money to pay off a debt he built up from buying cocaine. When police arrested him, they found some of the drug on him. His defense attorney even told the court that someone told him to commit the crimes to have his debt forgiven. But who knows whether or not that's true. In the end, the Bradford Crown Court found Tyler Griffiths guilty and sentenced him to spend 3 years in jail. What do you think should be done in order to help with the growing PTSD issue that's affecting ex-soldiers? Let us know in the comments, and while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. Number 5. Luke Sommer. 36-year-old Luke Sommer from Canada used to serve as an Army Ranger, but he decided to turn towards a life of crime instead. He first orchestrated a bank robbery in Tacoma, Washington in 2006. Then, when he was caught, he tried to get someone to assassinate the lawyer prosecuting him. On November 2, 2002, Luke was sentenced to serve 31 years for the crimes he committed in Tacoma. He was originally ordered to serve 24 years in prison in 2008, but with updated testimonies from some of Luke's victims, additional time was added. He robbed the Bank of America on August 7, 2006 with the help of 4 other men. 2 of them carried AK-47s into the bank, while the others had loaded handguns. In addition to this, all of the thieves had body armor on for protection in case things turned dicey with the police. Somehow, the heist was a success and they managed to get away with over 50 grand. However, they didn't get far. A concerned citizen noticed the license plate of the getaway car, and police were able to track down Luke and his accomplices. A month after getting arrested for the robbery, Luke tried to hire an undercover FBI agent to be his hitman. He offered 20 grand to the officer if he took out the previously mentioned attorney. Additional charges resulted from this incident. On top of everything, Luke attacked one of his robbery partners while in a federal detention center. The two were supposed to be in separate cells, but Luke found a way into the man's quarters with a homemade shank. Luckily, guards pulled him off the other prisoner before things could escalate any further. Number 4. Craig Woodhall. On March 29, 2020, 41-year-old veteran Craig Woodhall killed his wife in the middle of the street in Barnsley, England. 31-year-old Victoria ran into the road screaming bloody murder as her husband chased her down. While neighbors watched in horror, Craig tackled his wife to the ground before stabbing her multiple times. When it seemed like he was finally done with her, he walked away, but quickly returned 2 separate times to hurt Victoria even more. Witnesses later called the police to report the violent crime. Not long after the murder, Craig turned himself in. The Woodhall couple had only been married for a few months before the incident took place. Victoria worked as a practitioner at a nearby hospital, while her husband made a living as a forklift driver. Before the murder, people would have described Craig as the textbook definition of a devoted father. But now, it's clear more was going on behind the scenes. With so many people seeing what he did, Craig had little room to argue for himself. It didn't take long for the court to find him guilty, and he was given a life sentence as a result. Number 3. Jalen D. Thomas. Some people might think living on an army base is a lot like summer camp, and sometimes it is. You get to bunk with close friends, live with and eat meals with them, and work together while serving your country. However, sometimes living in such close quarters can weigh on people's minds and make them do some crazy things. An example of this took place on August 6, 2022 in Kansas. 21-year-old former soldier Jalen D. Thomas has since been charged with the murder of Sergeant Stacy Subotich. The two of them were both assigned to an army base in Fort Riley, and on the morning of the crime, a violent altercation broke out involving at least 4 people. When police responded to the scene, they found a man who'd been stabbed in the leg. They also discovered Stacy and quickly tried to rush her to the hospital to treat her injuries. Sadly, Stacy didn't survive. After the fight, Jalen apparently drove himself to get treated for his own stab wounds. It's also believed that another woman was involved in this case, and was assaulted by JALEN. It's possible that these two had been in a romantic relationship. Authorities arrested Thomas, and he's currently being held in their custody. Not too many details on the case have been released, but Jalen D. Thomas is facing charges of domestic violence, assault, and murder, to name a few. Number 2. FOUJI. On November 9, 2022, police arrested a former soldier for theft. It's believed that 27-year-old Harvinder Singh had been at the center of multiple burglaries that have taken place in the Chandigarh, India area over the past year. One of the man's victims called the police on October 29 after coming home to find that their residence had been broken into. Jewelry, as well as a large amount of cash, was stolen in this particular instance. Investigators believe Singh, who also goes by the alias FOUJI, was involved in multiple other cases of theft, including stolen scooters, televisions, cameras, and much more. FOUJI first joined the army as a soldier in 2015, but thanks to a drug addiction, he had to leave his official post in Jammu Kashmir. After this, he started working as a cab driver to make some cash, but the money wasn't enough, and so Singh resorted to petty crime. Since this case is still so recent, a sentence has yet to be given out. However, FOUJI is currently being held in police custody as he waits for his next trial date. Number 1. Anthony Hartley. On September 30, 2022, a homeless veteran named Anthony Matthew Hartley was killed on the streets of Portland. Anthony was a beloved man who did his best to spread joy wherever he went. The 40-year-old man was stabbed once in the neck by 50-year-old Dorian Ambrose Cannon. When police found and questioned the suspect, he claimed he had to kill Hartley for his own humanity. The victim was a large man, standing over 6 feet tall, and he weighed over 200 pounds, which only made his murder all the more confusing for those who knew him. Before his death, Hartley had been homeless off and on for about 18 months, but he didn't let this fact get him down. If anything, it made him more optimistic. One of his childhood friends, Jeff Clam, said that Anthony inspired him to become a case manager and help other veterans find homes. Hartley was on a waiting list to receive a federal grant, so his days of living on the street were almost over. This death was just one of at least 15 documented cases of homeless people in Portland being killed in 2022 alone. Hartley's murder highlights a growing homeless crisis in the United States, which continues to be more dire with every passing day. Have you heard any other interesting stories about former soldiers? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Bad Badger.